this is our first double header general session for Tech Home Builder. So you're making history. Tech Home Builder Lux double header. Bravis and Savant were kind enough to kind of co-sponsor this session, and they bring a ton of expertise to the topics that we're going to cover. Two parts. First is going to be about blending nature and tech to delight luxury buyers, and the second part will be about top drawer aesthetics. And you know what my theme is at this event, which is how do we get the collaboration between your tech providers and luxury builders to the point where it's adding value for everybody. It's creating more opportunity for dollars, more ability to satisfy the client at the same time. And I think these are areas where we can make that happen. So purpose, show how tech can be integrated with nature and aesthetics to increase opportunity for Lux builders and deliver value for clients. A more formal statement of what I just said. Our presenters today, so I don't know whether we're popping up. We have actually a couple of remote presenters, but Aaron Gooten is with Savant. There he is. And he's
Good morning, everyone.
I think he's in Las Vegas, right?
I'm in Los Angeles today, but I've transported myself here with my fun background.
I love this. So we got Star Trek and everything in this session. So Aaron's the program specification manager. He's been the key guy for Savant on Modern 1, which is going to be a point of reference throughout this session. And then, guys, give me my slide back. Aaron, it's nice to see your face. There we go. Angie is on the edge here. Angie Larson with Savant, who's VP of Sales Operations, I believe.
Something like
that. It changes every now and then. I've known Angie for probably almost 25 years. We worked together on a lighting control alliance, a home lighting control alliance, ill-fated home lighting control alliance, about 20 years ago that we started up. But she's a veteran in this tech home space, and we're happy to have her on the panel. Next to me is one of our regulars now, Sean Weiner with Bravis out of Baltimore. And Sean's smart as a whip, and his company is doing great things. And then we got Logan. Hey, Logan, are you there? Logan,
I am. Good morning.
Hi. So Logan Ziegler is with Blue Heron Development. And that's the company that Savant partnered with on Modern 1. And this is a lot of this, what we're going to see, I think, was Logan's conception in collaboration with the folks at Savant and the integrator, which was Eagle Century, right? Yeah. And so we're thrilled to have you here, Logan, and understand your perspective on this. And Flo is going to be tech and nature first, and we're going to kind of tag team it with Savant and Bravis perspective. Then we will have a word from our sponsor, Savant. We will do tech and design, and then a word from our sponsor, Bravis. And then Angie needs to run for a plane. So I'm going to give you the clicker.
All right, let's go.
There you go.
All right, let's get into it here. So as we look at kind of blending nature and technology, one of the key things that we wanted to talk about this morning is how to do that well and what that can mean for lifestyle and kind of the demand for that right now in general. And so Sean and I are going to show you lots of images, kind of cool images of how you can have technology sort of hidden in plain sight, so to speak, and also have that natural element come through in the home. And as John said, we're going to really highlight today our West Coast Experience Center. So Savant has an experience center both in New York City as well as in Las Vegas. And the Las Vegas home, which you saw Aaron kind of coming live from, right, is really a great expression of the smart home, and it's a fully interactive space. So one of the things we're going to showcase for you is both the ability for you to use this space to bring your clients, your designers, your architects into the space and do a tour of smart home technology, as well as do a virtual tour of smart home technology and how you can do that. We had some great speakers yesterday morning that really talked about selling with experience, and this is something that we've really embraced at our experience centers in both the virtual and physical realm. So it's a great center to really talk about the value of the connected home and what we can, really do for the clients. You'll see the dynamic fixtures, and we'll talk about that in the context of wellness and changing light patterns. We'll talk about entertainment a little bit, and we'll focus on energy and what that means, especially in the middle of the Las Vegas desert, the shades and the energy management, and what that means for the space, and what that will really mean for you in the future as an emerging category, and talking about energy management. So we're going to just kind of highlight all of those things. But what we're really going to do is hear from Logan and our builder team at Blue Heron and have them highlight for us what the elements of this home are as it looks to technology hidden in plain sight and bringing the nature in. So Logan, I'm going to actually have you highlight for us some of the great sort of features inside of Vegas Modern One, and talking about how you really focused on bringing nature into the main living spaces.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we have this great photo right here. This is actually the master bedroom in the retreat that we're looking at. Shower, so it's an open bathroom concept. The view to the strip is to the right. We have this lovely kind of layered garden. As far as the technology goes, it is a bedroom, so there's hidden shades, hidden doors. And what we love about the technology and bringing nature in is once we've done all the hard work of setting up the courtyard, setting up the views, now it's about accessing those seamlessly every day. And that's where the Savant system really comes in. Being able to hit that button, everything opens up, all the shades open up. There it is. You don't have to run around the house, push all the doors, pull the cords. It really takes it to the next level, as well as being able to hide away the things that you're not using every day, like the TV that's hidden immediately to the right in that walnut cabinet.
Logan, I'm showing an image now that you can see of kind of the great area in the center of the home. And you kind of get the sense from the picture here that you've got a lot of open space, just like that master bedroom. You've got a lot of open space. You're actually really bringing the indoors inside. And you guys took great care to do that, as you say, both from a design perspective and a technology perspective. So while you talk about that, I'm actually going to play a little video that shows how the space sort of transforms from indoor to outdoor.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the great room, double volume space, immense amount of sliding glass as you're seeing here. And this is where the technology makes this possible. This would be so impractical if you couldn't just hit the button. We can really open this all up, connect you to the sound of the water, connect you to the landscape. It's just a really powerful space. And then using the technology hidden in plain sight to bring the entertainment, the sound, the hidden speakers. We're always looking to reduce the visual experience to the most necessary elements. There's a hierarchy, trying to keep everything very clean, so you can really just hone in on that experience that we're trying to create, which is that connection to nature and the view.
So talk to us, Logan, about how kind of the artificial and natural light play together, because I know that's something that you're very focused on.
Absolutely. So lighting is one of the most powerful components to the experience. Natural light, of course, is very uplifting. I mean, it has all the health benefits, circadian rhythm. So being able to augment that with the lighting system, daylight mode, I believe there's a little time lapse we're going to show, helps us to just kind of pull the color tone through the house and truly in a whole new way connect you to the outside and this experience that you probably can't really hone in on a conscious level unless we were to kind of educate you on it. It makes a huge difference in the feeling and the mood of the home. And then furthermore, being able to augment that beyond just daylight. This is Vegas Modern One. it's an entertainment home. It's Vegas in all ways. So being able to bring color and completely change the experience at the touch of a button is just a whole new way to experience the architecture.
Hey, Logan, this is John. I'm just
Hey,
curious, you've had consumers through the home, correct? I mean, how do you demo this particular feature? Because this is so brand new, and it's not brand new, I guess, but it's ethereal, right? And it's like you have to experience it, and you just showed a whole day, and nobody's going to be there a whole day when you demo it. So how do you get them to at least have a taste of the experience and want it?
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron probably much better to speak to this, but I know one of the things that we talk about, or when daylight mode is on, is kind of that you don't notice it, and then bringing attention to it. That look at the natural light, look at the lights are actually on, but you're not seeing this kind of weird color wash on the right, and then the daylight bleeding together. It just all blends perfectly, and kind of helping people see that, bring attention to that is a great way to kind of show them how this is working.
And John, so one of the things that we like to do, because daylight mode, what does that mean? It means that the artificial light, the color temperature of the artificial light is matching the color temperature of the natural light, right? So it's cool in the morning, it's cool in the midday, and then as it gets later into the afternoon and evening, it all warms up, right? And that just happens naturally, right? Something that used to take an integrator like Sean, hours and hours and days to program, now just sort of happens naturally throughout the day. And so you ask a great question, how do you demonstrate that to someone? We've got a 1-minute preview inside the Savant app, and that 1-minute preview lets you imagine what a 24-hour day would look like.
But it also seems like the words to describe it are important because you can't give them the full length of the experience. And the language I'm hearing from you and Logan sounds like interior design language that is, very experiential, very to the homeowner's sense of well-being and decor, and not a bunch of geek speak, right? So what the language you're doing is awesome. How do we arm everybody with language like that so that they can paint the picture while they're doing what demo they can too? I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great, and we can definitely help with that. And Sean can speak to that as well, how they talk about lighting and what they do.
Yeah. There's actually I noticed it in your video. You can see the daylight, the sunlight coming into the room, but it only makes it about to the left-hand side of the bed, right?
Right.
So some of the products we worked on where we demonstrated this is we're bringing the outside light into the space. So you can demonstrate the outdoor light and see where it stops with the light, the recessed lighting in the ceiling off. We bring the recessed lighting up, it matches that color, and actually looks like the daylight comes all the way through the space. So you can do a pretty effective daytime demonstration without having to be at night.
I think my point is you have to tell them what they're seeing.
Absolutely.
For them to understand the value. It kind of goes back to the discussion yesterday, is like, how do we really use experience to sell value, have an emotional connection to it, and then the numbers make sense. But if we just go to, hey, here's this feature, see it, and it's only $40,000, then it doesn't sell, right?
Sure, absolutely. No, I think experience is very important as you look at this. And so, Logan, I'm going to have you look at that master bedroom just a little bit more from a different angle here. And I think talk about another piece of the experience, which is kind of some of that, hidden in plain sight. So there's a lot of technology in this room, and Logan kind of pointed out the cabinet where there's a hidden TV that you can't even see from this image, but some of the other technology here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, integration is huge. We have a great integrator partner that we work with in Las Vegas. And planning that out from the very beginning and knowing what technology we need, what we want, and then starting to think about that technology from an architectural standpoint. Where is it going to go? How are we going to hide it in plain sight, make sure it's functional? So in this bedroom, we have these architectural slots in the ceiling, the black lines that you're seeing there. In there is kind of everything: speakers, lighting, fire sprinklers, fire detectors, smoke detectors. In the bed here, this fully built-in bed, we have the subwoofers hidden, so TVs hidden, everything, trying to really blend it into the overall design instead of just stick it on the ceiling. We want that ultra clean, visual experience. So you just feel the space and everything feels like it's coming from nowhere. At night, it's really great. The lights just feels like the light is coming from nowhere. You almost can't see the point lights, the way the recessed coves work. And it's just this kind of effortless experience. I think that's what we want, both on the technology side and the design side.
Hey, Angie, can you go back to the trough slide?
Yeah, sure.
So you called it a slot, and I've heard it's a trough on the slide, and
yeah.
I'm a raving fan of this, right? Because you think about how much money has been invested on making speakers look kind of invisible, and all sorts of wall and ceiling warts make them look, aesthetically pleasing. But when you take the stuff out and put it in a trough, a slot, or we're going to come up with a better word for it. Now the lines on the ceiling are totally aesthetically pleasing, right?
Totally
it's
clean.
like, I know there's stuff in there, but my mind doesn't get attracted to it, right? I look at the rest of the design, and I think it's genius. I know you guys borrowed that from like commercial restaurant design or something, but I think this is an important trend.
Yeah, this whole idea of kind of that negative reveal where it's there, but it's inset is, your mind really doesn't see it. And it's also important to know as you look at these, like the speakers and the light fixtures, everything's the same size. They're all the same, so everything's very consistent. So you don't have big speakers, small lighting, or big lights and small speakers. Everything looks very consistent as you look at this. And kind of to that negative reveal, Logan, I was just going to showcase, you also do the same thing with the shades. And so as you look at these spaces, you'll kind of see over the windows and the doors that open up. I'll show while you talk through it, Logan, kind of the way those shades come down in that same negative reveal kind of pocket.
Yeah, exactly. So in this room, we actually have interior, exterior plaster flowing through. So the slot in the ceiling, again, just becomes an architectural element, but the shades are hidden in there. We use the black fabric, really attractive hardware from Savant. So even if you do look in there, it's beautiful, but when you stand back, it's there when you need it, and visually, it's just gone. Very effortless. Everything just feels the right way.
Yeah, and I'm going to double click on that. Logan's being very modest. Each one of these troughs, reliefs, whatever we're going to call them, really are bespoke.
I like reliefs.
Logan and his team literally had to lay out each one of these reliefs specific to the room, what it was going to house, and that wasn't just all of the speakers. So if we think about that master bedroom, everybody, if I told you we were going to put 28 speakers and 8 subwoofers in a ceiling, I'm sure every one of you would freak out about the pairing and the symmetry and how do we make all of this look beautiful, because ultimately that's why someone invests in a property, any property, but especially a house of this scale. And Blue Heron just has done a bang up job of taking really an immense amount of technology and just hiding it in all kinds of clever ways. Now, of course, Savant had solutions designed to be hidden, but they went the extra mile here by creating this what becomes an architectural feature, Logan, of the house, both down the wall and in the ceiling, so much so that once a customer is walking through this house for the first 10 or so minutes, they kind of forget they're there and they disappear to the periphery. And what the star is, are the finishes, the colors, the textures, the juxtaposition between the rocks, the plants, and those fine finishes that they've elected to put in the house. So it is something that Blue Heron really knocked out of the park here. We're really proud to be involved with it, but there are lessons, I think, for everybody that speakers and subwoofers, lights, they don't necessarily have to be just pucked into your ceiling. There are lots of ways that we can start integrating these so that, again, the star of the show are the design elements that the customers elected for the home, not necessarily the technology they've elected to support their experience in the house.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and I can touch. Oh, go ahead,
Logan.
Angie.
No, go ahead.
I was going to touch a little bit more on what Aaron said, because I know we're talking a room of builders. It really is a very intense effort. It doesn't come easily, and it is a collaboration. The integrator, the builder, the contractors, subcontractors, because we are creating an architectural feature. So there's a lot of back and forth between what is the visual line we want to create to where we need light, where we need a speaker. Then you have structural constraints, like where's the truss and the beam and the code spacing required on the sprinklers, which drives a lot of that. So it is a very intense effort, and if it is something you want to do, which it's a very rewarding effort, it does take the whole team, and it is something you should be talking to the clients about very early, and then put that effort in, and be prepared to change it a little bit in the field too.
Logan, do you have it's probably kind of first time at this level of collaboration, but how much time did it take above the norm to get that sort of back and forth collaborative engineering of the solution? And do you feel like you'll get future efficiencies having gone through it this time?
Yeah, I think so. It's a design, it's a lot of hours really on the design side. It helps to have some collaboration, knowing what technology you're going to have or likely use and how much of it. And then it becomes kind of an allocation effort. Yeah. So we probably start with where do we want the lines, and then kind of start laying out the lighting and see where do we need to go from there. So the beginning parts are relatively efficient if you have all the information up front. Yeah. Trying to do this last minute would be very inefficient.
And you got to start this at the very earliest stage of conception of the property and the ideation. And it's not like, hey, the structure's here, let's paste the technology in, right?
Correct. Yeah. You definitely want to start as early as you can.
Cool. All right, Logan. So the only other thing I wanted to showcase is this house is also, fully outfitted with our Savant Power solutions. It's one of the largest solar installations residentially, really across the entire western United States, certainly in Nevada. It's got a huge solar array that makes the house very, very sustainable, and really makes the entire house sort of energy independent from the grid. We'll talk a little bit more about energy and what that means to this client as we kind of look at the energy side of things. But kind of before we delve in a little deeper, I think we really want Sean to give you some more examples of what it looks like to have technology hidden in plain sight, because it's cool to see it in that Vegas home, but then you're going to show us some other examples of different kinds of homes and different types of technology.
Yeah.
Cool.
I only got about 45 slides. So.
Okay, good. You go fast. Homes that are less than $25 million?
A few.
Okay.
Thanks, Angie. I'm really glad you went through that first, because I think that example shows the interaction between these different systems and these different technologies. And I think it's really important to think of this, globally as a whole unit, because just the hidden TV or just the hidden speaker doesn't necessarily make a system. Being able to integrate the shades with the lights with the modes and the scenes and the entertainment elements of it really make for a complete system. So there's a lot of planning that goes in. So my slides are going to show a little more of the detail of each one of these things. Cool. But I want everyone here to at least consider that these have to interact as well. So outdoor music is one of those things that is both effective and hidden. Pictures don't do it justice because you can't actually see the speakers in the photographs, which is the intent. Outdoor music is more popular than ever. There's a couple different examples here, things mounted to beams. So custom-built speakers, custom-installed speakers, ultra-small speakers, speakers in planters, speakers underwater, speakers in small landscaped areas, large subwoofers buried underground. More is always better, not just because it costs more. More is better because you get more even coverage, and it makes you feel like you can't really tell where the music is coming from, which is an awesome experience.
What do you hear underwater? Do you hear like
actually,
garbled Nirvana, or do you hear sharp, crisp Nirvana?
Sound travels better through water than through air.
Really?
Yes, sir. So one speaker in a large pool is all you need. It's pretty remarkable.
Cool. How do you sell that experience? You throw the client in the pool, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Just hold their head underwater for a couple seconds.
They pay you whatever you ask for.
That's how we close our deal.
Baptized in technology.
Sign the check. Outdoor video is huge. This is probably not the best image. There's a couple more I'll show you. But just getting TVs outside, it used to be an anomaly, right? Nobody puts a TV outside. That's crazy. We have products with multiple displays outside. Small ones on patios, bigger ones outdoor theaters. You'll see a couple pictures of those. Having this experience outside, and when you build a home like Vegas Modern, where the partitions actually disappear, so the inside and the outside, you almost can't tell the difference between them. You want that flow. So you want the entertainment flow, the music, the video, that feel to flow through the space. So having TVs outside is not crazy. Having heaters outside is not crazy. Having audio in multiple places outside isn't crazy. I can't say enough about landscape lighting. We could do a whole session on that, probably. Okay. But lighting the space really makes a difference in the feel of the environment. So whether you're matching color temperature, whether you're trying to set a mood, whether you're changing colors in the space, it's really a big deal, and there's almost never enough attention paid to it. Landscape lighting to me feels like an afterthought on many of our projects. Where the house is up, the landscapers are showing up to start putting trees in, and we talk about, hey, where do you want to light? Not the right way to do it, so planning is going to be pretty key on the landscape side.
Lighting is really underestimated in terms of the visual appeal. I mean, we focus on the finishes themselves, and we're like, should we put the right light on that finish so that it actually shoots through? You know,
I have a couple interior examples of that too. Fire and water features, I've never seen this many in my life. Fire pits, waterfalls, pool features, and control of those is actually easier than ever. So being able to create that as part of a scene, even rolling the heaters into that space. If you live in a climate where, I mean, Vegas is a good example, right? In the wintertime, it's kind of cool at night, but you still want to be able to take advantage of that space. So being able to light it up, make it feel more warm and comfortable is really important. And I'm sure there's other technologies we could talk about, fans and misters and things like that for the inverse when it's summertime and creating some shade. And don't forget about the outdoor screens. Converting a regular porch to a screen porch, especially in areas like where I live where the mosquitoes are terrible, a really nice element as well. That's another example of a sliding partition. I think Savant did a really nice job with that in Vegas Modern. It almost puts this one that's beautiful to shame. But being able to open up your space to the outside is pretty awesome.
And Sean, would you kind of agree that, like John said, sometimes just showing kind of the concept or experience, a lot of homeowners don't know this is possible. Like, oh, I can do that, you know, so I think that's a helpful thing. And you guys talked about that at breakfast yesterday, just showing that it's possible and then letting them think about it is really huge.
Yeah, I mean, and to remember with some of these technologies that there were glitchy experiences 10 years ago, or so, all the cognitive dissonance that ensues, right? It's like, oh my God, I know those things are rickety, they break down, et cetera. Just to help people understand we're at a next generation of technology and maturity of that technology, and now it's done a lot and it works pretty darn rock solid, so I think that's important to convey too.
It is, and I'll have something for all of you with the boardroom sessions where you can actually basically carry home an idea book with you. So
okay.
You'll have photographs and examples and descriptions of all these things. You'll be able to convey it more eloquently to your customers. This is an outdoor theater space that we did a few years back. It's fully concealed, so that screen rolls up into the soffit. There's a projector hidden in an opposite soffit. It's a large outdoor area. There's a water feature. There's some great lighting. The plants weren't quite mature in this photograph yet, so those shadows are a little bit different now. They're all grown up. But you can see where we recessed the screen. You can see a really small hole for the projector with an access panel underneath in the soffit. Being able to conceal these things outside, you can take a space and turn it from what it was into something like this at nighttime. It's a great entertaining space. It's a great party area, and you can see in that photograph on the right-hand side there that there's a pool behind it too, so the audio flows through the space as well. This is a pretty awesome project that we did where there was all hardscape around the pool, and we had to hide the speakers, and a landscape speaker system wasn't really an option because there was no landscape. So the picture in the upper left corner is actually a faux finished speaker built into each one of those stone pillars around the pool. Not a very difficult process, a little bit of coordination required, but you can take a really elegant space and not booger it up with a bunch of big black speakers and make it look like a true stone
I like
wall.
booger it up. That's I'm writing that one down.
You like
That's
that?
Good, yeah.
That's the polite way of saying it. This is a great space. It's a penthouse overlooking the harbor in Baltimore. There's 66 shades in this one great room, and they're all concealed behind those columns and inside those columns. So you can see in this next photograph, that's where they are. So being able to do these things quietly and behind the scenes so they don't impact the space and the look of the space is really critical to the success of the project, and that took a decent amount of planning to get that one right. You can see other views of what it does to the space at nighttime. And you were talking about light and the effect and the impact of lighting. Look at the interior lighting here with the shades down versus it's like with the shades out. So you basically transform the space. You can make an entire architectural element look entirely different just by changing the lighting and the shading in the area. This was kind of a cool space. We actually built the window trim to hold those shades, so you can't see any shade rollers when they go away. And the second floor, we even put blackout shades for privacy between the levels. So if you look at that slide, those drop down, and then these shades transform. That was a little tricky, a little bit of engineering magic there to make that happen, but it's a great way to conceal products. Another shading example. This was a pretty simple one. The photograph got cut off. There's actually a crown molding that was built to conceal the shades in that bathroom. Media rooms and media spaces, you've probably all seen these before. There's some magic here, though, and I think it gets overlooked. Being able to put a large projection system to a room like this that's all glass requires that. So shades, motorized screens, motorized projection lift, so you can take a formal living room and turn it into a media space. This is another one. It looks over the backyard, lots of glass in this room, so we actually recessed the TV into the floor, so you get that.
Hey, Sean, can I interrupt for 1 second? Is Logan there with us still?
I'm here, John.
Hey, I've just got a question. You know, we're still on the nature section here. And
Yeah.
is there a guide to you as a designer on when and where nature views, nature interjection is really appreciated by the client? You know, what activities does a nature connection enhance, or what state of mind? I mean, do you guys think through that sort of? You designers, you're really creative. You get into stuff like that. So I just thought I'd throw the question out.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's really everywhere, you know. And there's some climate considerations too. Where are you building, and what is that nature, and what activities are going to be appropriate? So I think there's a connection to place, which is kind of a poetic part of this.
Yeah.
And thinking about, you know, where do you want to be when the sun rises in the morning, and what's that connection going to be like? And in the gray room. And that's where the technology comes in again, too, where we can control and kind of augment how we're experiencing the natural elements like sun and wind.
It seems like
it's really everywhere.
It seems like bathing, sleeping, eating are big areas, and then, you know, relaxing and conversing. Those seem like just off the top of my head, kind of the big four where you'd want to try to interject it. Does that ring a bell?
Exactly. Where are you going to be spending time and actually, you know, present? And hopefully what we hope is that kind of the nature can help you be a little bit more present. And if I were to turn anyone on to a resource to help them think about this a little bit more, there's a really great short report called The 14 Patterns of Biophilic Design. And it'll really change your thinking about what nature in design is and how you can do it. It's broken down into bite-sized points. And they have a really great one for the technology space called Natural Analogs. There's evidence and research behind just seeing abstractions of nature or even digital nature has health benefits. So a really great thing to look into.
I mean, I think your point about being present, we've all been struggling to be present because we've been virtual for 24 months, and it's got to be more appreciated and sought, maybe even subconsciously, than ever. And so email me that link so I can get it to everybody, all right?
Absolutely.
That sounds cool. Sorry to
And
interrupt.
John, I'll double click on that. You know, if everyone in this room just thinks about sitting in their breakfast nook, but hearing a babbling brook and the sort of calming effect that might have on a room of screaming children, it's a very good analog here that, you know, especially at Vegas Modern 1, when we've opened up all these doors, you know, Logan and the team really have water and fire features everywhere, and these really strategically placed waterfalls that actually carry that sound through the entire main living space and the master suite. And just that small element of hearing that running water can have a pretty profound effect on somebody's mood.
Cool.
So we can fake that too with the speakers. So either way.
Exactly.
Well played.
Thanks.
I love it.
I'm always the how guy. This was our design center for several years back in Baltimore. And over the fireplace there was a piece of moving artwork, and there's a screen hidden up inside that bulkhead with the projector hidden on the other side of the space. This was challenging. We actually had to cut a screen into horizontally across the beams in the ceiling. So it actually lowers from that ceiling in that space.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun. And this is the great one. So this is where you hide your booze. So there's actually a motorized lift in the center of that for the, you can see where it came out of, where the alcohol comes from to keep it away from the kids. But it's a really interesting space. We have helped design that bar as well.
Got an alarm system too?
It doesn't, but I'm sorry? Is that hidden or organized? Both, actually. Here's that project again with the shades. This was kind of an interesting project. This was a big gym, a big workout space. But all the timber frame on the ceiling made it very challenging to hide speakers in there. So those are actually integrated into the beams. You can't see them. Wish I had a better picture, but they're actually built into the beams, facing up and reflecting off the ceiling. There's 4 subs hidden in the triangular-shaped walls at the end of each space. So it's incredibly loud in that space, but you don't see a single speaker.
Well, and Sean, you mentioned kind of an interesting story yesterday of, the homeowner in this particular, home was maybe a little shy on technology until they started to think about the gym, and it was the gym experience that drove them to want lighting and music and other things in that space, and really expanded kind of their technology.
Yeah, it was actually
needs.
this photograph.
Was it this? Okay.
This is in our solutions guide, so the picture of this room. And they had a space over the garage they were going to turn into a gym, and she saw this picture. They added beams to the ceiling. They expanded the size of the space. They changed the lighting. They added shades. They added a couple TVs to it, and it became a pretty massive project for us on top of a pretty massive project for this client. But it was just the inspiration of seeing the photographs and hearing or feeling what the space could look like. Or
What they
be.
could do.
I think it's
versus an over the garage gym, like
Right.
a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point in going back to our consultation and selling process, is like sometimes we're wanting, and I'm guilty of this, show the whole landscape. It's like, oh, let's show them the whole landscape and they can pick and choose. But what if they're interested in one thing? Work with them on the one thing and give them something they love. Now they're thinking about other things. So I think it's an interesting point and something we need to think about strategically.
And then I think we don't want to overlook these things too, and these are just a couple examples, but the little stuff, the receptacles, the light switches, the keypads, the speakers, the shades, the HVAC grills, not just where they're located, but what they look like. We can be thoughtful about this process. We can take some time before the construction begins to understand what these things are going to look like and how we can make them look better. I mean, electrical receptacles haven't changed since they were created for the most part. Maybe they added the ground 100 years ago. So making them look different and better without violating any local electrical codes is a challenging item to attack, but really worth it when you look at the finished space. So the troughs or the slots or the reveals in the ceiling that you were talking about before is one example of this, and a great way to do those things. But being able to be thoughtful about the things you're sticking on the walls and the things you're putting on the ceiling and how you're going to clutter up a space makes all the difference in the world to a finished project. So all I would suggest is that work with your design teams, your architecture, interior designers, and your clients to have that discussion early enough that you can make a difference on the finished product. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It just costs some time and some effort and some thought.
Well, and I think, Sean, as you say, it's important to look at how it all plays together. So I think you said that really well, right? And making sure that it all, works together and is seamless for the customer to experience and to really live in, because these are homes that they're going to be in and actually experience. And so as you look at that and you look at how are all these things coming together, this is a really important part, I think, of what you guys do each day is, okay, how do I bring this all together? And, as we look at smart home or connected technology, right, it's not just about entertainment anymore, right? It's how does their home network? I mean, my goodness, that's probably the most most important foundational product that they've got in the home. I mean, I know they care about heat. I get that, and you know,
it is, but I'm glad
water.
we haven't talked a bit about network infrastructure, because every time and it's a boring topic, but it's essential.
It's essential.
But it's really boring.
It's really boring, but it as you look at all the things that come together, certainly, at Savant, we care a lot about the entertainment experience, but also how does that kind of go into the rest of what they're going to be doing in the space. Certainly lighting, Sean showed you a lot of pictures, and at Vegas Modern 1, you saw how lighting's a play, climate, how does that and the shades kind of make a play. You talked about the outdoor experience with the pools and the spas and the fire features, and all of that becomes a really important part, and so does the energy. And these are the things that you can bring together for the client, as you look at this. And so, why do I care about bringing the energy, into the system? Well, there's a lot of great examples of, hey, I don't know, I know I'm producing some solar, but I don't know how that compares to how much I'm using. What is there's a lot of information that we can deliver to clients today that can actually help them be more educated on their lifestyle and experience, and have their home really do more for them. And so, these are the kinds of things we think about at Savant. We also think about how to really make sure that that's very personal for the homeowner. And so, one of the things we think about is, how does the app, how does the experience they have in using the technology really become very personal to them? So one of the things you see here on the screen, right, this is the Savant experience, and you can actually see photos of the home are really driving what I do here, right? So I can go into the kitchen and I can see, oh, from the kitchen, I have cameras, I have lighting, I have entertainment in that space, and I'm really seeing my own space kind of reflected back to me in how I interact. And that's really important. And if you think about this in all of your projects, to be able to show someone, their space and have them interact with their space, even in this virtual environment, is really important and also really intuitive. I think somebody said yesterday, if I have to go teach a client how to use their system, we've done something very, very wrong, right? And so this is a great example of, oh, yes, that's my kitchen, and I know that I've got some technology there that I can use. And so we don't have to teach them how to use that experience. And Sean, you were talking at dinner last night, how different that is from 20 or 30 years ago, where you practically had to have a 20-page tutorial how to use and interact with your touchscreen.
Yeah. It has changed everything, and it gets overlooked because you've been doing it since your inception at Savant. But the user interface design was something that when I started in business, we actually built from scratch.
Right.
So we picked the colors, we drew the buttons, we located them on the screen, and in this house, the volume buttons were on the left side, and the next house they were on the right side, the next house they were across the bottom. And when the client calls and asks how to use it, you've got to go back and pull up the file to try and figure out what you did. And this was transformational for my company. Having a user interface that always looked the same. So it didn't matter whether the house was in Baltimore or in LA. It didn't matter whether it was, at my company doing the installation or another integrator doing the install. The interface looks the same. It flows the same. The buttons are in the same place. And I think a lot of us take that for granted now, because it's the right way to do it, but not everyone does it that way.
Yeah, and it certainly makes the whole maintenance cycle, as you say, really start to become non-existent, where you're not custom developing every home and then having that maintenance cycle. And so, those are important things to consider as you guys think about technology, and think about how they're going to interact with it. And certainly that visual experience, I think, is an important element to how they do things.
Yeah.
And
this is just what you're showing right here. It's simple. It's a simple thing that you did, but it's huge, right? So instead of needing a Rosetta Stone to understand the latest icons and I've had it. I can't figure it out anymore. There's so many icons, but that's my room, right? So I know where I'm going because it's a picture of my room. And I'm sure human factors engineers were involved in this stuff, et cetera, but it's a simple choice that makes a hell of a lot of sense. And Carl, it will make people want those single app sort of thing instead of, because they won't be overwhelmed with lots of buttons that they don't understand. So simple but works.
Simple but works, and a lot of the homes that the group of people here work on, it's not the only home that this client is likely to have. And so, making sure that they can move throughout their lifestyle seamlessly and have a usable experience, of course, is also really important in the technology space.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but John, you touched on something pretty important, and I think it gets overlooked a lot in these conversations about the single app control. We're all used to using a lot of apps, and it's very easy to dismiss the single app and say, well, I can live with 4 apps on my phone. And some people probably can. The issue is you lose that interactivity between systems. So when you can't have your shading system interact with your lighting system, you lose a huge benefit of having both. So if you don't have a single app solution like this, you can do it manually. You can think through that process, but it becomes a little less complicated than pulling the chain on the shade and flipping the switch on the wall. But it's not a perfect solution. So this pulls it all together and makes it something that's more unique, more interactive, and really more effective and a better experience for everyone that uses it.
I think that's great. All right, so just, one of the things that John, you guys hit on yesterday is, take a tour. Like, let your clients see this, let yourselves, let your design teams kind of experience. Savant has both West Coast and East Coast experience centers. And like I said, you can do it virtually or in person. Our virtual tours are very cool. You saw some of that yesterday and what you can do now in terms of virtual experience and really trying to get immersive. And so we do both in both of these spaces and would love to give you and your teams a tour of kind of what's possible as you look at technology, kind of take it a step beyond these slides and actually bring you right into the space and see it. So, that's a good thing for us. And we've talked a lot, I think, about the integrator and the impact of this, that they have on the job. And you might notice, Sean and I know each other well, and you can look at someone like a technology integrator and see what they can do to really bring that space alive. You saw some examples from Logan. Hey, how do we think about the technology? What technology do we have in the space? And the relationship between the integrator and the builder has to be very tight to make these things happen. And you guys have, a lot of work nationwide, and I'm sure you're going to tell everybody how they can work with their integrator well.
Yeah, thanks, Ange. So for those of you who don't know about Bravus, I'll probably share more in the individual boardroom sessions, but this was a collaboration of integrators across the country that lasted about 3.5 years before it became a single company. We got some funding put together, and we merged these companies together. And it sounds on the surface that Bravus was simply 15 independent companies operating independently of one another with one new sign out front. But really, we did it for a purpose. My goal has always been to transform an industry that's been looked at as the redheaded stepchild in the corner of the building process, and make us a legitimate contractor and really necessary to the process. Yeah. So what size and scale does for us is it gives us abilities that other integrators don't necessarily have. So when I was a small independent integrator in Baltimore, I had one designer / engineer and one draftsperson, which was great until we got overwhelmed and I ran out of time and space to take care of that. With Bravus, we have a design and engineering department that's, I think, 14 or 15 people now. So we have a centralized, consistent process for designing engineering systems, for consulting and designing with your clients, your customers, for working with architects and designers, landscape architects, lighting designers, in planning these processes. And we centralize that because we now have economies of scale as a national integrator to do that. So we can work near our physical locations. We can work essentially across the country from corner to corner on projects that require intensive design and conversations for customers who are discerning and want the best of the best. And it's been really good for us to do that. So what I would tell you is that where Savant is the what and the why, we're the how.
The how.
Right?
How do we do it?
So this all sounds great, but to be blunt, if it weren't for guys like us, Angie wouldn't be sitting here right now. So somebody's got to be
it's a chicken and egg situation here, Sean.
All right, that's fair. But we are the ones.
The cat's on the table.
We're
I got an
boots on the-
elephant down here too.
I love it.
We're the boots on the ground, so we're the
Absolutely.
ones on the front line with the client and making sure that the experience is what it should be, and you give us the tools to do that, which is awesome. And you'll hear me talk a lot about planning and design. So we have this great design team. We have a great design staff. We have some pretty smart people in the building. The other advantage to rolling up these companies across the country is that most integrators who start a business, they started it because they were either the best salesperson, the best operational person, or the best technician in their current or their previous company. They left to do their own thing. So you've got some pretty talented people, but they're always the most talented person in the building. They're the best at something in their organization, but you don't have the best of everything. We immediately overnight had 23 best guys and girls when we merged these companies together. So we've seen these things. You saw some of the slides that I showed. For every one that I showed you, there's probably 10 more photographs or 15 more photographs of products that we do. Brabus as a group now does almost 3,500 installations a year. So if we haven't seen it, it's either really creative or a really bad idea.
Don't do it.
Yeah. So these are just some examples of being thoughtful, some design documents, but everything down to the boring network that John was talking about. Without two things, networking and power, none of the things that we do will work properly. I bet that the Savant folks that are here will tell you about their tech support department fielding phone calls on so-called defective products, and the defects are always traced back to a power issue or a network issue.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the unsexy part of what we do, this doesn't show up in any of the beautiful pictures. There were no pictures of wireless access points shown here today. But if they're not there, none of this works.
I think we get gold stars for that.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's my next business. I'll design a beautiful access point. But without those, nothing functions. And you have angry customers. So it's critical to build these systems properly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to walk through a bunch of these, I hope. I didn't see these slides. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, these may not be as sexy as all the photos, but this is really cool, right? And if you think about talking to a client about the potential system and you start showing design and engineering drawings like this, now it looks like something more than the stereo guys slapping stuff on the walls, right? And because it is really more than that, but we don't show them that. We don't show them what quality looks like from a planning and project management perspective, and I think that's an important part of the sale too.
Yeah, and I would say that if you don't do this currently, get your integrator involved with your design team as early as possible. Knowing how to condition the space where the equipment racks are going to go shouldn't be an afterthought.
Yeah.
Understanding how much space you need for a golf simulator shouldn't be an afterthought. Understanding how to build shade pockets to conceal those shades shouldn't be an afterthought. There were photographs of, I think at Vegas Modern and in some of my photos, of shades on glass walls that intersect at a 90-degree angle. Has anyone ever thought about how difficult it is to make that work without a giant gap in the fabric? It takes planning, it takes design, it takes some thought. You really have to understand how to make that work. Otherwise, you end up with a 4-inch gap on the window that you can see right through, and you defeat the whole purpose of putting the shades in there in the first place.
In Louisville, we were talking about this in terms of getting the technology drawings in place alongside MEP,
Yep.
right? Because we know that there are all sorts of problems on the job site that ensue if we don't get all those layers together.
Exactly.
So it's about quality. We're talking about it here a little bit more from a sales and marketing perspective, but this is, again, it gets back to starting early and making it integral with your client consultation process and the design and construction process, I think.
Yeah. And I bet you if I asked everyone in this room what their biggest problem was with integrators in the past, aside from stuff not working, you'd probably say surprises, right? Anytime someone surprises you on a job site, it's never good for you as a contractor, as a builder. I didn't know I had to do this. I didn't know where this had to go. Now we have to figure out how to make this work. I've got to reframe this. I've got to take this down. These drawings and these conversations don't eliminate all the surprises because your client's going to throw you some curveballs, I'm sure. But it eliminates most of the surprises and the expensive surprises. So the things that you don't want to deal with, if we talk about those and plan those first, we can avoid those mistakes and those headaches down the road. So I just have a few more examples here of things that we do. But even this drawing, as simple as it is, I'm putting cameras on my house. What can I see? Well, it's terrible when the client gets their app and turns it on. The Savant cameras work flawlessly, but they can't see what they want to see. So you've got to plan these things. You've got to work out these details during the construction process and before, so you don't run into those same issues down the road.
My favorite comment is that these cameras don't work.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean they don't work? Well, I can't see what I want to see, right?
Yeah.
So that's planning.
And all those decisions, all those selections need to be something that your integrator takes care of and helps you with. These things are pretty important too. This is a theater elevation, but what does that TV gonna look like over my fireplace? You know, how do I know how tall it's going to be or how far it's going to be off the floor? How do I know how big it's going to look on that wall until it's actually done? And I'm sure your customers have a hard time visualizing. I'm sure some of your architects do 3D renderings and all sorts of great drawings to help them picture what this will be. But without that visual to the customer, this is a surprise at the end. I didn't realize that TV was so small, or I didn't realize that TV was so big, or I didn't realize how ugly it would be in my room.
I did, yeah.
All these decisions are things that you really need to be cognizant of, so you get these things right. You don't make decisions of weighting a part of your process. And I think the legitimacy of integrators becoming the fourth trade, you would never consider building a house without at least a basic mechanical or plumbing plan. It doesn't make any sense. You're building special bulkheads and you're making special considerations for plumbing pipes and ductwork. But you wait until the house is framed to talk to the integrator. It's never made sense to me, so I'm going to sit here and pound on the table and beat this drum for a long time. But if we're
Take your shoe off.
Yeah.
Do the Nikita Brezhnev? No, it was Nikita Khrushchev. He was the pounding the shoe.
Yeah. But the irony here is it doesn't cost any more to get the integrator involved early. It costs you some time potentially, but it's going to save you a ton of time at the end of the process. So if you can get, and I know sometimes it's not the builder's responsibility or even ability to bring that client to the table early. The architectural team should be doing that. The interior design team should be doing that. But talk to your partners. I'm sure these are people you work with all the time. Let's get some decisions early. Let's talk to this customer. And if they don't want it, that's great. If they think light switches flipping up and down are perfect for them, that's awesome. At least you know that going into this project, and you can be thoughtful about where you put those switches. But if they want lighting controls, if they understand what those things are, that's awesome. And
they might sell more artwork with the interior designers with the right lighting, right?
They absolutely will.
Yeah.
And even getting those demonstrations, so that the solutions guide that I'll give you all later, where you can see what these things do and how they operate, they spur ideas. They inspire conversations. They make customers think about what these places could be. And let's be honest, it makes your finished product look better and makes your business better because they're happier with their space. The lights look better, they work better, the shades are hidden, they don't see wires sticking out at the end of the motor on the roller because you designed a pocket that worked properly. You've probably gotten more business from it. So the gym example you were talking about a few minutes ago, the contractor may or may not be happy about change orders. It's hard to say from job to job. But the timber framing and everything else that went into that gym, it probably added $75,000 to $100,000 to their scope, which they may be happy about, or maybe they want to get on to the next job. Maybe they're miserable, so I apologize if they are. But it changes the way that you build your homes. It changes the way that the clients see it. And I think in the long run, it's better for everyone, especially the customers.
And Sean, if I can, sorry, John, I'm going to add one thing is that what we saw with Ficus Modern 1 was the commitment to a smart centralized lighting solution actually had a profound effect on the reduction of the number of keypads that we needed to put in the house. And even though Logan's team did a bang up job creating these reliefs that go vertically down the wall so we could inset them, if you think about a 15,000 square foot house with lighting, even with just regular switches, as Sean calls out, we're talking about somewhere in the order of 150, 200 things you got to put in the wall. Yep. That entire house is controlled with 28 keypads and an app. And often I think, Sean, the customer, the builder, the architect, when we bring up things like smart lighting, they instantly think more of everything. But when we can demonstrate that early commitment to smart actually means a reduction of the number of interface points and wires, it actually goes a long way in showing the benefit, not just from an ease of use, but actually a benefit in the number of things we need to manage, install, pick a color on, and engrave.
Yeah, that's an awesome point, actually. And I think that the other thing that we probably didn't spend enough time on, Angie, is talking about scene creation inside your app. In the old days when we used to custom design touch panels and program things, we did everything. So when we wanted to create a scene for a customer, we had to ask the client what they wanted to do. What time do you wake up? Where do you go first? You know, what days of the week do you work? What do you do on weekends? Just so we can light pathways for them. And then when they lived with it, because they'd never lived in the house before, they call us back a month later and say, well, this was dumb. Why don't we change it to do this, that, and the other thing? And I've got a guy out there with a laptop and a long cable plugged into the processor, typing away for an hour and a half or 2 hours trying to get that set up for them. And now we've taken that level of control and done with it what every other Apple app does. It puts the control in the hands of the owner of the system. So they can build their own scenes. And if they really hate the idea of making a list of things they want to do, they can look around and say, this is perfect. I like the lights like this. I like the shades like this. This music is great. That TV should be on whatever channel it's on right now. And save it as a preset on their app and recall that scene anytime they want to. That's incredibly powerful. If you would have told me 10 years ago that we'd be able to do that, I would have said, you're crazy. There's no way that's going to happen. Well, I wouldn't have said there's no way. But I would have thought it's very difficult and pretty impressive to do that. But it makes it a really powerful experience.
Hey, is Logan still there? Logan, I don't know whether you're tuned into the screen here.
I'm here.
Yeah, have you been able to follow some of these slides?
Yeah.
And I mean, what's your comment? I mean, we really need to do this advanced design and engineering work, don't we? I mean, to get this right. I hope you agree, but I would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, both selfishly from the designer's standpoint, right? We're a design-led company at Blue Heron, so we have, in our own interests, as well as, of course, our clients, a very high standard for what we want to achieve. So drawings, three-dimensional models, communicating drawing to drawing is a way we understand that the design intent is going to be achieved, and understanding it's a way of just kind of being on the same page with the integrator. And then, of course, the client, they think in a whole different way, so we have to be able to communicate to them. So it's absolutely necessary. I use it in a way as a litmus test for who I would feel comfortable working with, integrator or any trade. It's like a shop drawing. The quality of the shop drawing is telling me the quality of the integrator and how well they understand what they're doing and we're all trying to achieve. So very necessary to get a high quality result, and communicate to the contractor. They need to know what's going on too, because they're going to be the one who puts it in the right place and really executes. So beyond necessary.
Okay.
And Logan, Sean brought up a great point. If I think about that first session at night where we walked around and got all the lights set the way you wanted to, if I recall, we started that evening with the integrator sort of driving all the personalization in the app, but an hour into it, if I remember correctly, you had like grabbed that iPad away and you were walking around the house setting lights in our interface, capturing scenes, and doing it all yourself as the designer.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the Savant app and being able to go in there and tweak stuff and modify things, it's so simple, and it makes a huge difference. You know, we've been around long enough to have used systems where we really need the integrator to come and set everything up, and then exactly that, we want to change it the next day. So being able to tweak it and just on the fly is very powerful.
Cool. More?
All right. I think I have one more slide. Yeah. So interior, exterior, I can't stress enough how important planning is for this. And you wouldn't consider building a house without a full set of drawings, at least to start with. You probably can't even get a permit without a set of drawings, as far as I know. We look at it the same way. We look at it the same way. We're builders too. So we're a general contractor for all the technology in the home. And you know, lighting is being handled by your integrators now, which is probably unique to many of you. If you've trusted your integrators to handle lighting. Lighting has gotten so complicated and confusing with the inception of LED fixtures that it takes someone to pay attention to it. And electricians, and I am one, so I don't want to badmouth them, don't want to spend the time to do that, because as an electrical contractor, when we bid a job, it's a fixture. It doesn't matter what fixture it is, it's the same cost to me to put it in your ceiling. But when that fixture doesn't dim properly, as an electrician, I don't want that to be my responsibility. This is why you're putting this responsibility onto your integration firms. Let's make sure that it changes color properly, interacts with the app properly, it dims properly, it lights the space properly, and then get that information back to the electrical contractor to actually physically install that fixture so that the end result is right. I'm sure everyone in here has had a bad experience with LED lights where your client's giving you a hard time because you hit that dimmer and the light flickers and then shuts off when you get down to 20%. That's not a good experience for anyone. You end up calling your electrician saying you've got to replace the dimmer, you've got to replace the fixture, you've got to fix this, whatever terminology you want to use. And again, it just comes back to planning. So find an integrator you trust. If you can't, call me, and we can put together a plan to get you pointed in the right direction and avoid as many of these pitfalls as you can along the way.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we're close to wrapping up here. First of all, thanks to our co-sponsors and subject matter experts here, Angie, John, our remote guys, Logan and Aaron. Awesome job.
Thanks, guys.